Good evening, Flosstube. My name is Laura, aka the Gin Stitcher, here on Flosstube and over on Instagram. I'm coming to you again from the UK. It's Saturday, the 28th of January. It's about 8 o'clock in the evening. I've been up since 4 this morning, so if we get a bit and end up going a bit off tangent, or I just keel over and pass out in front of you, that's why. I am rapidly reaching the end of my tolerance. However, I was on the 911 Stitches Zoom call on Thursday, I think, and I got reminded that I was probably overdue for a video. So I did promise I would do it on Saturday, and it is technically still Saturday. Whether the video posts or not before midnight is entirely another conversation for another day. But hey-oh, we can only try. We've had a nice day today. We've been out to the Red Lion at Burley and Wharfdale, which is about a 45-minute drive from my house. I've had a meet up with about 15 or 16 other stitchers, and I had a lovely lunch and a nice catch up with some few people I hadn't seen for a while. I haven't been in to go because it's one Saturday afternoon a month, and unfortunately for the last 6 months my work shifts have not tallied up. Not a lot I can do with it, unfortunately. So today we have stitching. I'm going to confess now. In the last video I said my focus pieces for 2023 were my HAED Warm at Home, the Pussycat, the black and white one, and my advent calendar for my niece, which really must be fully finished by October at the absolute latest, because shipping to Canada at the moment is averaging 8 weeks. Have I touched either of those since you last saw me? Nope. Mojo is not there. However, I have done some stitching, and also there's been some knitting. I don't knit. Apparently I do now. So we'll do that first. 2 weeks ago, I went on a course to learn how to do what's called arm knitting. 3 hours with some friends. There was an awful lot of laughing, and we all got to go home with a blanket. 1 second, it's over there. And this is mine. How awesome is that? It is about 2'6" wide, and it's easily 4 foot long. It's stitched, knitted even, from a acrylic fluff. If anybody does any spinning, it's basically the stuff you have before you turn spinning into yarn. But it's brilliant. It's from a company called Woolly Mahusive here in England, and they ship it to you in these 2 kilo balls, and 1 2 kilo ball makes 1 blanket. And that is actually the front. I'm showing it the right way around for the first time. It's amazingly warm. It's fabulous. I love it. It took me about 3 hours to make. And I enjoyed it so much I went home with a second ball. So today, at my meet up with my friends, I set myself a challenge to try and remember if I knew how to do it. And in an hour and a quarter, I produced another one. This one isn't quite finished because I haven't done my ends, and it needs a good shake out and a good rest. But hubby is away at his dad's house at the minute, so I don't have a second pair of hands to just sit there going with it. But give it a couple of days, a couple of weeks even, it'll be as fluffed up and as good as the other one. This one is going to my sister. She saw the picture of the blue one on Instagram and texted me, "I think your niece would like you to arrange to buy one of those for mummy for her birthday." And I sort of went, right, okay, yes, now I get it. Willow has ordered one from Auntie Laura for mummy. Now I understand. And I was just a bit like, yeah, that's fine. Do you understand how much this is going to cost me to ship? So she's paying for the shipping. I paid for the yarn. I've done the work. I've made it. She's paying for the shipping. So we're going to find out how much it costs to send a 2 kilo blanket that's about this big folded up to Canada. Probably in the next week or so, because it needs to go. It needs to go sooner rather than later. Because her birthday is in May, and although it's only January, I would be mildly surprised if it turns up much before the end of March. Very surprised, in fact. Okay, so that's the knitting. Don't get too excited. That's all the knitting I've ever done. And made it to the end. I've cast on needles a few times over the years. I always seem to end up with either a lot more stitches than I started with, or a lot less stitches than I started with. My tension is all over the place. And I give up. Because my scarf is supposed to be this wide and it's going in and out like this. And I was just like, that's not enjoyable. I find it very stressful. And it's more hassle than it's worth. But this I really enjoyed, and it is really, really warm and snuggly, and really easy to do. You knit it on your arms. No tools required, and literally it ends up that wide, but you're literally knitting from that point of your wrist up to your elbow, and that's it. It's really forgiving. That's why you need to give it a good shake, because that sorts all the tension out afterwards. And that's it. Winner, winner. Okay. What have I actually stitched on? I'll be honest, I haven't stitched a huge amount. I wasn't really feeling it. Work is work shaped at the minute. And there's been a few nights when I finished work at 9 PM or later. And quite frankly, I've been barely able to keep my eyes open long enough to eat something, have a shower and go to bed. So this is, I showed you this in the last video, except I'd managed to misplace the actual stitching and only had the front cover. It's called By the Sea by Karen Carter, and this particular one is called Beach Huts, and it was sold by Heritage Crafts here in the UK. I think they do ship worldwide, but I'm fairly sure you can get them from other places. And that is what it looks like. Complete with a seagull. It's all stitched in DMC. They come as a kit, and you ask when you do the order. You order it and say either whether you want 14 count Aida or 28 count even weave. My hubby bought me this for Christmas. He actually bought me 3 Heritage Crafts kits for Christmas. A lighthouse. One is a sort of industrial scene in black and white and sepia, and this one. And all I asked was that he made sure he bought them on even weave because I prefer it to Aida. Also, these Heritage Crafts kits have a lot of fractionals in. They have diagonal fractionals, and they also have half and half vertical and horizontal fractionals, which is a little bit surreal because you stitch over 2 threads in that direction and 1 thread that way, or vice versa. So it sometimes feels a bit odd. And that is where I've got to so far. That is how wide it's going to be. It's white in this top corner, so that's not overly obvious. That's how wide it's going to be, and that is how tall it's going to be. So this is all sky. Fairly boring, really. There's also blends in this as well. So if you were thinking about something like a Theresa Wensler, these are actually really good accessible kits to learn the skills you need for a Theresa Wensler. There are blends, there are fractionals, there is backstitch, there's lots of backstitch. To give you an example, this is supposed to be a lobster pot down here at the bottom, and these are the starts of some steps. I'm not quite finished all those yet, and that's all be backstitched to bring it back to life. This is just the start of hut number 1 here, and this is the start of the third hut over here. I just needed a break from stitching in blue, to be perfectly honest. So that is, what is it, probably going to be about 8 inches across when it's finished. I'll be honest, this was the kit fabric. It's not 28 count. It's more like 26 count. It's a bit of an odd size, but it's definitely not 28. This is bigger. If I measure it from here to here, it's bigger than it says it is going to be on the chart. Thankfully, I've got enough margin either side. But yeah, it's not too big. And I've really enjoyed stitching on that one. It's cold, it's January, it's grey. January in England is never a particularly nice time of year, so it's nice to stitch on something summery. So that's that one. How many stitches are in that? I don't know, maybe 500 or so far. It's a paper chart, so I can't really stitch count. Okay, next one, Mirabilia. New Year's Eve fairy. That is what she looks like, supposedly. She doesn't look like that in real life. She doesn't even look like that with the floss that it came with. So I bought this as a kit from Hawkins Hobbies at the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate back in November. We had I'm going to call it a start along with Charlotte stitching with the kids around, Nadine, Nadzek Stitch and Aileen, still hiding from Flosstube. And so we had all decided we were going to start it on Christmas Eve as a start along. I'm not going to call it a sal because Nadine's already finished hers. I'm just emptying the project bag. I've been out all afternoon. I haven't done anything to plan for this. Okay, so the threads it called for, and I'm fairly sure I've talked about this before, it was all Classic Colourworks. And as a palette of colours, they're actually quite nice. There's greens, there's blues, there's an interesting pink, which is supposed to be the skin, and a brown. And I didn't, on face value, I didn't have any issue with that. Then I started looking at it. And I looked at the picture. And I looked at the floss. And I went, you are? In my Yorkshire. So then I really looked at it and I went, okay, that's for her hair. Okay, that's not, yeah. My hair on a sunny day, fair enough. Okay, go with that. That one goes around the outside of the clock. That is black coffee. And on her shoes. It's not really black, it's just a really dark brown. Fine, I get that. Then we got onto her wings. Which were that one, which is Tyler Boy Blue and Blueberry Tart. Yeah, okay, getting that. Skin. Actually, that's quite good today. It's stripy. Stripy skin. Stripy skin. Stripy skin. Stripy skin. Either that or she was going to look like she'd spent way, way too much time in the tanning booth. And then last but not least, that was the dress. The colours are Frosted Sage, and then the bits around the edge, which in that picture are definitely grey. So we're talking these bits down here, was Deep Fennel, which is green. There is no getting away from the fact that that is green. So I kind of went, don't like that. Don't like that at all. And also, although I bought the kit, further down here it says face, arms and legs in old oak tree, and that wasn't in the kit. So I was going to have to find a colour for the back stitch on her skin anyway. So I literally rampaged through my stash. It's all over there. I might show it to you one day when my craft room doesn't look like a bomb as it is. Okay. Skin. DMC 948. Really boring, very pale, but it went with the dress. I also went with the Yorkshire people in winter are not brown. 948. Then I started to do the back stitch on her legs, and I picked out something, and I can't remember what it was, but it really wasn't dark enough, so that got ripped out and I replaced it with 758. So a slightly darker shade. It's still not in your face particularly, but it's a bit more obvious. In fact, that's come out. There we go. You can see it now. So it's not meant to be like shouting at you. Okay. So that was the first obvious change. I wasn't having stripy skin. Then I decided then I had to decide, do I want to stitch this as called for and be disappointed that it's green? Or do I just want to go, you know what, I'm going to go off-piste. I went off-piste. She's still headless. I might have learned that I really don't like being looked at by my stitching. I find it a bit weird. So her face will be last. But that's where we've got to so far. Her legs are done. Her shoes are done. This is Krynic on her legs. The bottom of her dress is done. This is all beaded now. It's really not showing up very well today. There we go. That's better. This is all beaded. The sash is beaded. The bottom sash is beaded. The top sash is not. So I've got some beads to put in there. The clock face to do. And then these swirls, there's some more on this side. And then the bottom half from there down is done. Which is something of a miracle for me. I don't normally work this fast. I've started on her arms because I needed to start her arms to be able to bead down here, and particularly over here. And then I needed to position the wings properly. So I started on her arms so that I knew where to put the wings in. And also there's a lot of fractionals in the arms. And it was a lot easier to match off the fractionals with the wings if I was doing it as I was going along. Okay, so the colours it's calling for in the wings, they are being stitched as called for so far, and I am enjoying it. Okay, what have I stitched the dress in? Because as you can see, it's clearly neither white nor green. Here we go. I have stitched the body of her dress in this one. Silks for You PR 069, which is a fairly unvariegated dark blue. It does have little flecks of different colours in, but the way I've stitched it is it's not made any difference because I've just gone backwards and forwards to minimise it as much as possible. So it's a fairly flat colour when stitched, and that is it. Silks for You PR 069. I only got this in a silk of the month. It says February 2021 on there, so that tells you how long it's been sat in my drawer. It's on a floss drop in a bag, because that's how I store my silk. Okay, so we started with that. Then I wanted to do the sashes down the outside, so they go up here and all the way down here and all the way down the other side. And I started. Mark 1 was the called for colours. Let's leave it at that. That did not last long. It was way too strong, way too bright, didn't like it. So that came out. Mark 2 was Silks for You PR 146, which is purple. Wildly purple. Let's see if I can do that for you. There we go. Now, this one is more variegated than the blue. It's a purple with an almost black. So Mark 2 was just a strand pulled out at random and stitched. It was really purple. So that got ripped out. Mark 3, I went through the strands of purple and looked for one that if I'd cheated and folded it in half, it had one strand of almost black and one strand of purple, so that it was almost a black-purple blend. Stitch that. And I got a bit further with that one because I was quite liking it. Then I got down into the sashes, into the actual skirt, and went, still a bit too purple, still clashing, still not quite working for me. You know, this is supposed to be highlights on a dress. I think in the design it's actually supposed to be shadow under her bits. But for me it was making it a highlight and I wasn't that keen. So it came out for a second time. You'd think I had money to burn, wouldn't you? Third attempt. Fourth attempt even. Fourth attempt. Mark 4. Mark 4 is still in and it's not coming out again. Back to the stash. I swear to God, my husband is like, what are you doing? Bent over, head up, head down, bum up, in the drawers, looking for stuff. And that's what we ended up with. And they are Silken Colours Thread Gatherers, Thread Gatherer Silken Colours, and they are SNC 1066 and SNC 1065. 1066 is called Civil War Tears, and 1065 is called Independence Reign. One is lighter than the other. The Civil War Tears is the slightly lighter one. And what they are, it calls for the darker one on its own in some places, and then the two blended together in other places. So you don't see this on its own anywhere. And I was like, it's a good job I like that, because these are really expensive. I don't honestly know if you can still get these in production, because I went through a period of buying on 123 Stitch when they were in clearance and buying 2 skeins of each just for my stash. If they were going to be out of production, I wanted them in my drawers. Again, keeping them in plastic bags because they are silk. So all of this, all of up here, all across here, all this down here, this is all that Silken Colours, and I really like it. And you know what, it's not washing out too much. Okay, then we get on to her bodice. The clock is as called for, with a Krynic and the black coffee. The Krynic up here is as called for. It's a sort of pale metallic blue colour. But then up here, this is supposed to be, the called for on this is gold. Gold was not going to work. It should be this colour. I was like, no. Back to the drawer. Back to the drawer. And this time I pulled out Krynic number 4 in 018HL. So a really navy blue. The idea was I wanted the sparkle, but I didn't want the contrast. And then I was like, oh Jesus Christ, beads. Beads! The called for beads are gold. Nope, wasn't doing that. I am not a changer for delicas. I'm not somebody who changes to delicas just because I prefer delicas. But on this occasion, I went in my stash and I found these, which is Delica 1756 in the colourway Amethyst AB. And they are purple. Yes, they are purple, I'll give you that. But they are a little bit sort of sparkly, and I absolutely love them. I need more of these in my life. These are fabulous colours. And that's what I've done all the beading in. We're up to about here on the beading. I've got the bodice to do, and then it goes up here, and it's a bit in her hair as well in the same beads. So far we're about 80% changed. So not completely, and I'm not changing her wings. The only thing I'm probably going to change on her wings, and this is probably entirely going to be down to my level of patience when I get there, is I am debating going over the stitching with a top stitch of Krynic 032 blending filament when I've stitched all the wings. I haven't decided yet. It's just going to come down to whether I need a bit more sparkle in my life at that point. The dress as a whole is sparkly, the fabric is sparkly. It's a Jodrey Designs fabric from this year's Advent. Urania, I think it's called. It's a really deep blue, I love it. Now I have actually stitched this onto one side. This is a fat 1/8. She's not in the middle. There is room for another fairy over here. Still deciding which one. Come back to me on that one. So yeah, that's where she is. One last look at my fairy. Headless fairy. Next time you see her, I think she'll be nearly done. She better be nearly done. I want her to be finished for the retreat in York, the Yorkshire retreat at the start of March. That's the goal. Also, I need to finish her before I forget all my changes. Because even if I write them down, it isn't going to make any sense if I come back to it in like 6 months' time. Okay, next one. Not completely sure I've worked on this month. If I have, we're talking 500 stitches, which on a HAED doesn't get you very far. But this is my HAED so far. There's a little bit at the top, a bit more at the bottom, and as ever, loads of threads. Loads of threads. This is Warm at Home by Irina Garmashova, charted by HAED. And I am doing diagonals, but diagonals this way. I'm stitching this 2/110 on 32 count easy count. And what I found is that I'm not very good at parking. I had like 40 threads loose at the front. These are not parked, these are finished with, they're just waiting to be weaved in at the back. The problem with 32 count, it's really hard to get your needle under the stitching at the back to weave it in. So you kind of have to wait and just sew over it. So they're finished with threads. These are parked threads down here. and I found I couldn't handle it. I had about 40 threads parked, and I wasn't really functioning very well. So one thing I have done, and that's probably where the 500 stitches have come in, is you can see that I've started going up here, just ending the threads basically. And then I'll come back and go back and fill it in. But my mojo is missing from this one at the moment. The person I'm gifting it to, I don't want to say we're not friends at the moment, and we certainly haven't fallen out. God, that sounds bad, doesn't it? When did we last say falling out? When we were 12? But they've been a bit weird recently. And in my head, I know that we still love each other dearly. But at the same time, I'm like, can I really, really justify? My brain's not letting me sort of spend hours and hours and hours working on something for somebody that I don't think, I worry is not going to appreciate it. I watched somebody else's Flosstube recently, and they talked about not wanting to ever gift stitching because they didn't think the person would appreciate it, and they would only gift it when they knew they would appreciate it, so maybe to a fellow stitcher or something like that. And then it would be really awkward to take it back because you love it but they don't love it as much as you do, and you can't go and visit a few months later and it's in a drawer somewhere. I have no such compunctions. If I'm going to spend 2 years working on something and they don't like it, it's going in a gift wrapped with a post-it note on the inside that says, if you don't like this, I'll have it back, please. Because there's no way in a million years that I'm gifting something to end up in a drawer. Can you see the black fabric? This is how little my HAED has been calling to me recently. I have voluntarily stitched on black fabric in January. This is my Chatelaine Gothic ornaments. I had to think for a minute then. I'm stitching all 5 ornaments on one piece of fabric. So when you buy all 4 as one unit on the charts from Chatelaine.de, you get the 5th centre motif for free. If you don't buy the 4 as one, you don't get the centre motif. It's not available for sale separately, so you have to buy them as a group to get the centre motif. So me being me, I was like, buying 4 is cheaper and you get a 5th chart. That'll do. I love that. So I pulled it out. My HAED was really, really not talking to me, so I pulled it out. Haven't touched this centre motif. I'm just wondering if that's showing up. That's better, isn't it, in front of my jumper? Haven't touched this centre motif here. This is finished for now. This centre motif, I think I've talked about this before. There's a line of two stitches deep here between the treasure braid and the DMC. That calls for a Gloriana. A, it's not in stock, and B, when I looked at it, I wasn't completely convinced. And one of the things it says on it wants you to do, she almost wants you to take this centre motif and make it your own. So I've stitched the base, and then when I finish the other 4, I'll decide what I'm doing with the centre. Probably end up drawing lots. So what have I done this time? This one has been in the naughty corner for some time, by the way. It's all falling off. It's all going wrong. Okay, so what have I done? I have finished drawing the outline of the top right ornament. This is the purple one, and I have gone in and I have started. I'm just going to come a bit closer because it's easier. I've started the fill-in. So this is DMC, and there's some DMC 310 here, and lots of loose threads. I work my ironically, I can park on my Chatelaines. I can't park on my HAEDs. Don't ask me why. I don't know. So this is DMC 642. It's a kind of beige colour, and that goes all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And then the silver here is echoed inside the 310. And then here is a load of back stitch, and then this is the centre here that goes. That's a standard Chatelaine centre really. It's heavily beaded, heavily stitched, lots of eyelets, lots of whatnot. So yeah, black fabric, black DMC, 32 count. It says orange, so it's Wygart, I think. It's got the orange band on it. Purchased from my friend Tracy, who decided black fabric was not for her. As you can see, I don't have masses of margin. I've got about 2 inches. Less than 2 inches if you don't include the selvage. So it does fit, but only just. I haven't done anything with these bottom motifs. I needed a break from drawing outlines because there's a lot of repetition. So this arch here that you can see, there's 4 of those on each motif and 4 in the centre. So essentially by the time you've done this, you've done that motif 20 times. And this centre line here is again repeated on the other 4 tiles. So you're going to repeat that style of stitching another 16 times around the motif. So whilst I love it and they are all going to be different, there is repetition. So I kind of stitch on it for a couple of weeks and then I put it away again. Okay, that's everything I've stitched on. So I haven't done very much. Guilty as charged. You know me though. If I wasn't stitching, that meant I was probably shopping. So I was shopping. Okay, technically this wasn't shopping. This was pre-shopping. It was on back order. I put it in with my last order, big order of beads from 123 Stitch, and they are Mill Hill Treasures 12244, and they were in stock when I ordered. By the time they dispatched, they were out of stock. So I've got 3 packs of those. They are like a pink clamshell. I think there's a lot of these are made of Tubata, but I can't remember. So they came by a very circuitous route all the way up the east. Normally my parcels go up from Texas to Chicago to England to my house. That one went all the way up the east coast. It literally stopped in every city up the east coast of the US. Then it somehow ended up in Copenhagen, and then it finally came to the UK. So God only knows. It's had a vacation. Okay, this month's silks came from Silks for You in Australia. I tell you what, it might be grey and miserable here. Apparently it's not in Australia. So we have PR23, that's the red. We have PR190, that's the purple. We have PR125, which has got every colour under the sun in it. It's got oranges and purples and greens in it. And then we have PR178, which is a beautiful fall colour. Beautiful fall colours. Golds, purples, oranges, reds. That one I love. Don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I love it. So yeah, so 2 fairly, there is a little bit of variegation in that one, but not much. And almost none in the red. That's just a red. So not bad. 21 US dollars a month. If you want them, you just have to email her and see whether there's any spaces on the list. There's not really much else I can say. They come every month. They get shipped in bulk to the UK, and then somebody in the UK is shipping them in an envelope to individuals. So it's more guaranteed, they're more likely to arrive. So as long as you paid your invoice by the deadline, they come fairly quickly. I treated myself to a light. They were on sale. They're normally about £35 on Amazon, and they were half price down to about 16. So I was like, yeah, I'll have one of them. It's rechargeable, plugs in on the USB, and it lasts me a couple of days before it goes flat if I'm only stitching in the evenings. I'm sure if I stitched all day with it, it would only last a day. But yeah, certainly for evening stitching, it was okay. And then there was a sale. You know me, I'm an absolute flipping sucker for a sale. So what did I buy? This one. This is a gold collection stocking called Candy Cane Santa Stocking. Here's the Santa looking through a window with a tree. I love it. I think it's brilliant. When am I going to stitch it? Your guess is as good as mine. But it was on sale. It was $29.99 from 123 Stitch. And again, they came fairly quickly. I can put them away now. They've been inside my office for like 3 weeks. Okay, number 2. Another gold collection stocking. This one's called Santa's Snow Globe. So you can see there's a theme here. Not just the Santa, but they're fairly traditional images. Not religious, but not cartoony. And I quite liked that one as well. So I ended up with about 6 in my basket and was narrowing it down. First of all, I eliminated all the ones that weren't on sale. That defeated the objective. I paid full price for them. And then the last one, possibly a little bit more cartoony. This one's called Snowman and Friends. It's a big snowman with some little critters. There's a rabbit, a squirrel, some birds. I've got a feeling that might be a cardinal at the bottom. And a big full moon. And in fact, there's lots more birds up at the top as well. So that one I have actually opened already. To start putting the floss onto a floss ring. I cut up the strips they come in and put them all into a ring. It does come with all the stuff you need to turn it into a stocking. So I probably will stitch this on the Ada. Just because then I know it'll be the right size. I don't have to worry about shrinkage or wonky measurements or anything like that. It is what it is. So that's the 3 stockings. They were all $30 each, plus shipping. So $95. That's about my average spend when I shop at 123 Stitch. I try to spend around the $100 mark. Because then kind of mentally I can justify the shipping. That sounds a bit nuts because $5 shipping from the US is nothing. But that's just in my head. I've got to get that shipping down to a reasonable proportion of the bill. Today's mug is brought to you by Thermos. What this is a sign of is this is a sign I had to leave the house today. I don't do that very often. Not by any quirk of being a hermit, although that's how it feels sometimes. More because I work from home. You know, I go to the supermarket store on a Monday when I finish work, and that's it. I might not go anywhere else till Saturday, and if I go out on a Saturday, I don't always do that. I am on chill mode now. I'm on annual leave next week. My out of office is on. Will not be logging in. Not interested. Not here. My 2 work besties know that they can ring me if they need to. And they know that I'll pick up. They know that I'll pick up. So in that respect, you know, I'm never really off duty. But they'll also only call me if the world is ending. Okay, right. In a Facebook group, don't ask me which one, I can't remember, somebody posted about a shop called Lovecrafts here in the UK. I'm sure they ship internationally, but I'm not 100% sure. They were offering Rainbow Gallery mystery bags. 40 cards of Rainbow Gallery for £20. So that's 50p a card. Or what, I don't know, 60, 70 cents a card, talking in US dollars. Maybe even less than that. When I buy them from 123 Stitch, they're $3 to $4 a card. The important word here was mystery. You didn't know what you were getting. And there was no guarantee it was all going to be treasure braid. So I sort of sat on it for a few days. I'm going to let somebody else take the risk here. Money is tight at the minute. And then somebody posted a picture of what they'd had delivered, and I was just like, yes, I'm having one of those. I've never shopped at Lovecrafts before, so I had a new customer discount. That was even better. Register, sign up, 15% off, bam. If you spend £25 in the UK, you get free shipping. My brain is going. I needed some big knitting needles. I wanted to try making that second blanket on big 2-inch needles. They didn't have any. So I bought 2 packs, 2 mystery bags, put through my 15% discount code and got free shipping. So I got 80 cards of various Rainbow Galleries for 34 UK pounds. And they came this week. They come really quickly, actually. I got, in no particular order, that many treasure braid. There is some duplicates in there. I'm not going to deny it. But there is also plenty of colours in there. There's PBO1, PBO3, PB54, 34, which is in the Gothic ornaments, PB36, all of which called for in Chatelaines that I know of because I've got them. There's black, which is PB05. So there's lots of routine colours in there that I consider would be fairly good value. That alone made it worth it. I got 6 cards of this one, PB208. I couldn't decide whether this was supposed to be glow in the dark, but it says it's called Mist Pearl, so I'm guessing it's not glow in the dark. But it's like a wild yellow colour, so I wasn't quite sure what that was about. But I got, well, in fact, I got more than 6, 2, 4, 6, 8 cards of that one. But yeah, that alone, there is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 31 cards of Treasure Braid there. That alone made £34 worthwhile. And on top of that, I got some other stuff. I got some Petite Silk Lame, and I got two cards of 44, one of 92, one of 148, which is more yellow, 3 cards of 152, which is a beautiful royal blue, and 1 card of 156, which is a green. I'm fairly sure this is called for in one of my Chatelaines as well. I've got something very similar to that. And then fuzzy stuff. Fuzzy stuff. I got 4 cards of fuzzy stuff. I don't even know how much this retails for. 2 blues, a black and a grey. So that was the fact. They're cute. I'm not looking forward to stitching with it. It looks like frightening, but loving the idea. And then more from a needlepoint perspective than perhaps from cross stitch. Neon Rays. These are all fairly neutral colours. There's greens and ambers and bronzes, and a sort of mauvey pink at the back. But I thought that was it's a good selection. And again, not much in the way of duplicates. There is a couple of duplicates in there, but not masses. And then some panache. Again, don't even know what this is. It's shiny. It's like a rayon. It's like a rayon almost. This is less variegated. They're all neutrals. So we've got some sort of olive greens, some browns, and some golds. So less of these. And then the last one that I've got lots of is Elegance Silk Pearl number 8. So it's a pearl, and again, all fairly neutral colours. That's a better picture actually. Into the pales, into the umbers, and then a cream. E899, which I'm guessing is actually technically their white. Got 4 cards of that, so I'm guessing that that's the white. But yeah, quite like those. And then my ring with the odds and sods on, which basically means I only got 1 or 2 and I wasn't wasting a whole ring. So I got some rainbow tweed in browns. That's a stranded floss, so you can split that into strands. I got some sparkle braid in green, another green, and some copper. And then I got some suede in purple, and some silk Splendor ribbons, three cards of Splendor, which is really, it's quite a big ribbon actually, that. Again, that's a needlepoint thread really, rather than a cross stitch thread. But you know what? Less than 50p a card. Not arguing. So when I got paid on Thursday, guess what happened? I ordered 3 more. I've got another 120 cards coming. No, that's not right. Yeah, another 120 cards coming. They haven't been dispatched yet, so that means they're probably going to get dispatched on Monday, so they'll be here Wednesday. I need somewhere to put all this stuff. What am I going to do with it all? I'm going to buy another set of drawers from IKEA, because the ones I've got over there are full. Need another set. And then I'll separate them into their various types and colour, order, etc. and so forth, and make them vaguely organised. And then I won't need the rings for them. The rings are purely so that they don't just disappear all over the house. Okay, last but not least, I might have had some meetings, really boring meetings, where I did have to talk, but at least I didn't have to take minutes. Because guess what? My loom is no longer a jigsaw. So the raw wood has all been waxed with a polish, So it's changed colour very slightly, it's darkened slightly, but now it feels a lot tougher. Doesn't feel like the oil in your skin is gonna stain it all the time. It is together. The cards that go in here are downstairs in the box, so they don't disappear. I've got one that's quite wide and one that's quite tight. And I was with a friend of mine who is a much more expert weaver than I am on Thursday, and she's recommended to practice with face cloth cotton, which is a cotton yarn that you buy to make washcloths and things like that out of, using crochet or knitting. And you can use the same thing for weaving. It's quite a dense, thick yarn, but it's basically indestructible and very forgiving and not expensive. The cue here is not expensive. So if you make a mess of it, you can just unravel it all and start again. So that's my objective for the coming week, is to get hold of some of this stuff and have a go at setting up the loom. Wish me luck, because it's going to be exciting. So this is my new rabbit hole, and when I get to grips with this, the next one after that is a spinning wheel. Oh, I'll tell you what I bought, and it's on my phone so I can't show you. I was watching Sticks, Strings and Other Things on YouTube. She's a lovely lady who lives in Washington State. I say lovely, she's nuts. She's about as nuts as me. We seem to have found a mutual craziness in each other. She knits, she crochets, she stitches, hence the name. And she did a finishes show, and in it was a cross stitch called "We Are the Daughters," and it said, "Born of ash and fire, we are the daughters of the witches you couldn't burn." And I was like, I need that in my life. I live in Pendle Witch Country, here in the UK. Feel free to Google it. It's a horrifying story, easily on a par with Salem. But because I live in Pendle Witch Country, I feel it's right to honour those ladies from 400 and something years ago, and therefore I've purchased that. It's charted in 310. It's not going to get stitched in 310. I think that's fairly likely, and not an unreasonable thing to say at this stage. So that is probably where we're going on that. I need to have a think about it. I'll probably pick my fabric first, because it's not enormous. It's probably only about so big. So I've got a rampage through my little pieces of fabric and see what I've got, and basically decide whether I want to go light or whether I want to go dark, and then contrast with the words. So that is probably not this week's project, but I might try and have it kitted up by the time I see you again, so I can show you. I also might be naughty and go in the office and try and print it out, because then I can show you what it looks like. I think that's everything. Yeah, it's Saturday night. I haven't even had a gin and tonic, mainly because a friend of mine rang me in tears, so I've got a feeling I might have to go out, which is fine, because that's what we're here for. We look after our friends, and we look after our family. And if that means that I get in my car at 2 o'clock in the morning, I get in my car at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's absolutely fine. Same applies, you turn up at my house. Admittedly, I might not be very friendly at 2 AM if you're braying on my door, but I will open the door and I will put the kettle on. So stay safe, look after yourselves, and I shall see you all in 4 weeks or so.